Quaker puffed wheat, Quaker puffed rice, breakfast cereal shot from
Quebec City Elementary School closed indefinitely after positive COVID-19 variant tests.
It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest.
Canadians in Texas say they're coping better than most in Winter Storm Bend.
Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers. And King on New Husky. Gold discovered in the Yukon.
The Kardashian
in the wild race for riches.
Al Jazeera.
Back to the days of the puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice, bringing you the Preston.
Please keep turning it on and off, you fucking retard.
Of the Yukon.
I guess you know you're a retard.
Be able to signal the way Sergeant Preston does.
The jacket.
Yes, if you hurry, you can get an official two-tone Sergeant Preston mounted police whistle.
Well, it's weird,
for your
because
very
looks like she's got a noose wrapped around her neck,
gold-plated
so
copy of Sergeant Preston's
jacket
own whistle, offered by the ready-to-serve breakfast cereal shot from guns, Quaker puffed rice, and Quaker puffed wheat. Don't miss out sales of this thrilling offer in just a few minutes.
Please keep it up, buddy. That's the way to clear your name. That's the way to clear your name. Keep it up, buddy. Keep it up. Every time I open my mouth, you're gonna do that, right? That's how the internet works. That's how it works. Right. They don't like my politics, so they're gonna block what I'm saying.
Stop trying.
That's about 30 fucking times you've done that. You've been online about 2 minutes, bro. What button do you think I'm pressing, Doug? Keep showing me my eyes closed. Keep showing me my eyes closed. So the question again was, what button do you think I'm pressing that's jamming up my system right now?
White with just one.
Here, I'll click one button.
Oh, Daddy, he's wonderful. Honest.
Glad you like him, Bo. It's up to you to take care of him. Remember that.
Well, I have a feeling that Mother will have a bit of extra caring to do. Isn't that the puppy Mrs. Rector had in Tom's Van?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
She was willing to sell him to me, so I grabbed the chance.
I don't like people calling me a pedophile, Sarah. They say pedophiles are bad. Nobody said you were a pedophile. You keep jumping up out of the woodwork. You keep jumping up out of the woodwork
Van,
to
you
tell
know very
us
well how the
we
Rectors
need
have
to
complained about
stop
that puppy since they got him a month
persecuting
ago.
pedophiles.
Mrs. Rector
where you
tells me
come
he
in.
chews anything and everything in the place.
So 2 minutes straight.
They have to be trained, that's all.
What Mrs. Rector told me, I'm afraid it's going to take a lot of training, Van.
Because I was leaning down like this, so I must be pressing buttons. So I'm a dumb nigger that doesn't know what to do.
Reasonable, honey. You saw
Right?
how excited
That's
Glo
what you
was
say
over
about
that
me.
pup.
I've already made up my mind that if that puppy
1986
persists in
we
chewing
built the
everything in
system,
sight, we'll get
dumbass.
rid of him. And that's
I shouldn't
that.
have to repeat that every
Heck, what's the
fucking
use?
Jack Hacker show.
I'm going back to town for a while.
That's how
See
we
you
know you're a
later.
bunch of white police officers and pedophiles.
During the
So
next
it's
few
synonymous.
days, Van Topton spent more time than usual in the cafe each evening, after finishing his work as clerk at the express office. One evening, Sergeant Preston entered with his dog, Yukon King, and approached Van's table. Hello, Sergeant. How are you? Hello, Van. Hi, Sergeant. Where'd you sit down? Oh, thanks. Lie down, King. Van, I've noticed you've been visiting this cafe for the past few evenings instead of going on home as you used to do. Anything wrong with
That's
that?
what the cops
Nothing too serious, Sergeant. A few days ago, I took a puppy home to Gloria. Got her from the Rectors. Oh, yes, I remember the pup they had. I understand he practically chewed the foundation out from under their cabin. That's the trouble. You know, Betty and I have rarely had a difference between us, but that pup sure caused one. I named him Contention because of the arguments he's caused at home in the past few days. That's quite a name for that pup. He still has the chewing habit, I suppose. Oh, he sure has. Betty's given me one more week to get rid of him. But Gloria's crazy about the darn pup. Frankly, I sort of like him myself. A bit of firm training ought to break him with that habit. Sure, that's what I tell Betty. But you know how wives are. She claims Gloria and I have fun with Contention, while she has the work of trying to train him and break him of his bad habits. Well, frankly, I don't know how wives are, Van, but I do know about dogs. If you and Gloria ignore his chewing habit, Betty's training won't have much effect.
I suppose you're right. But say, Sergeant, isn't that the gold whistle I've been hearing about?
Oh, yes. Want to look it over?
Hey, that is something. Well, it has your name on it, too.
That's right. Though it's made of gold, it's a replica of the official mounted police whistle.
The constable told me about it.
Well, then, I have to move along. See you again soon. Give my regards to Betty and Gloria.
I'll do that, Sergeant. So long.
Good night, Van. Let's go, King. Meantime, at a remote table at the back of the cafe, two men had watched Van and Sergeant Preston as they talked. After Preston and King went out, one of the men spoke.
Hey, Buck, I've seen that Mountie before up in Dawson City. Wonder what he's doing in Selkirk.
Maybe he's just passing through on patrol. They got a regular constable here, Sam.
Wish we could have heard what they was talking about. Funny, that express fellow's been hanging around town lately at night.
That can't mean anything. He has no way of knowing we figure on robbing the express office.
Yeah, but I still don't get it.
It's better this way. We know just where he is. First night that snow falls, we'll pull the job.
Why do you want to wait till it's snowing, Buck?
The snow will cover our tracks so we can't be trailed.
Oh, I never thought of that.
That's why I have to do all the planning. You just don't think.
Oh, no, Buck.
Come on, let's get out of here. Go to the boarding house and I'll tell you all about my plan.
All right.
Boarding house.
Late the next afternoon, snow began to fall. Sam and Buck waited in the cafe until they saw Van Topton enter after he had closed the express office. The two crooks sat for a while and then leisurely left the cafe.
Check lunch.
Well, this is it, Sam. Get our dog team hitched and leave it behind the boarding house. Then we'll bust into the express office with the back way and clean out the safe. Then what? We can run along the back way to where we leave the dog sled. The express office and the boarding house are on the same side of the street.
Yeah, I know.
We'll head south and take the branch trail to Bivy Creek. I know a place there where we can hold up for a while. Falling snow will cover any tracks we leave, so we'll have nothing to worry about. Come on, let's get a move on.
A short time after the two crooks had left the cafe, Van got up from his table and started for the door.
Leaving earlier than usual, aren't you, Van? Oh, I'm coming back. I forgot some papers I want to take home and work on tonight, so...
Keep it up. Keep it up.
You got the record?
Keep it up. Keep it up, Ops. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up.
What I heard you tell the sergeant last night, you don't have much choice.
Keep it up,
Well,
Officer
pretty
Obvious
big
and
stuff
Detective
about it, I
Diddler.
admit.
Keep it up.
But I'm hoping she'll get to like attention.
I looked at the machine. That's when every computer
Working
fucks up.
to
When you
kill
look
as
at
many
it,
feral
right?
cats as we can within the national park.
You know, when from the camera
One
can
man
see
whose
you
job
looking
it's been
at
to
it.
make sure that whatever was left of the Dunnart population was kept safe and accounted for is Pat Hodgins. He's a fauna ecologist with Kangaroo Island Land for Wildlife. We go to Western River Refuge, a private property of a huge patch of bushland that was burned in the Black Summer fires.
This area
Good,
here we were able
'cause you
to
didn't
get back
pay
into very quickly within days
The
of the fire
niggers
being
for it,
through
so
here
it's
and
not
recommence
yours.
our surveys for Dunnarts. This was a location where
Put
we
them
knew
on the
that
money,
there
you
were
won't accept the money
Dunnarts at
from them when they come
multiple
to buy
of our
stuff.
monitoring points. And we were able to
You
get
run
in
around
here
shooting the
and find them
kangaroos in
within
the
days of the
head.
fire, which was great news.
White people are going to say that they
Not very
have
far
the
from the
rabbits and the
Western River
dodo birds,
Refuge,
bro.
we move to the northwest of the island. We're in a large...
People really excited and get more meaning out of the brand.
Always good to talk, Mike. Stay well and take care.
You too.
Really
have a
get
good one.
excited.
All right, Mike
Get
Leon,
more
branding
meaning
marketing
out
expert,
of
president
the
of Brand Heroes Marketing.
It took early humans thousands of years to start cooking their
Telling you
food.
to do the same
Today,
shit over and
we're
over and
not
over that
such a
every other
patient
company
bunch.
does. That never works. Wow, you guys are good. Oh, wait, that's
now being
kangaroos.
surrounded by several
I guess
kilometers
we
of
got
cat
nothing
proof.
but French to listen to.
Mais totalement cohérente avec celle de l'ensemble du secteur aérien qui a vu s'évaporer 66% de son trafic passager en 2020 et dont les pertes ont dépassé les 118 milliards d'euros l'an dernier selon les chiffres de IATA. De nombreuses compagnies ont déjà mis la clé sous la porte. Du coup, certains y voient un paradoxe, d'autres une injustice. Pour Air France, KLM et toutes les compagnies traditionnelles structurellement endettées bien avant la pandémie, mais qui auront pu survivre grâce aux aides étatiques, cette crise sanitaire sera finalement peut-être salutaire. Pressés par les États prêteurs, mais sans véritable inquiétude quant à leur pérennité, ces legacy, compagnies porte-drapeau, vont accélérer leur transformation, leurs réformes, considérablement réduire leurs coûts unitaires dans l'attente de jours meilleurs. Elle pourrait se relancer sur des marchés assainis avec moins de concurrence, où finalement les compagnies qui pourraient disparaître ne seraient pas forcément celles qui perdaient de l'argent avant le Covid, mais celles qui n'avaient pas la taille critique ou la trésorerie nécessaire pour tenir face.
Was in simple welfare based on real stories and action points that will impact your life quickly and significantly forever.
I'm sorry, but I have very little here. You aren't far from town, though. You can get all you want there.
Lady, we're not going to town.
No, we just came.
Shut up, Sam.
The puppy went under the bed in the other room, and I can't get him to come out.
Forget the pup. Who's in the other room?
Nobody. Daddy's in town. He works at the express office.
Oh, he does, huh? Well, that's good. Lady, this gun says you'll give us what supplies you have right now. Get busy and pack them up. We gotta get out of here.
We'll continue our adventure in just a moment. This is the last week. Yes, this week is your last chance on this program to hear how to get a 14-karat gold-plated copy of Sergeant Preston's famous mounted police whistle. So hurry, get this official two-tone police whistle offered only by Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, the swell-tasting king-size cereals shot from gun. You get with this terrific whistle a 12-inch gold-colored braided nylon cord to hang from your buttonhole or belt. It's a beauty of a whistle, plated with gleaming 14-karat gold. It's a heavy whistle. You can feel the weight and quality of the heavy-duty metal. It's a big whistle, actually over 3.5 inches long. And listen to its two-tone sound that shows it's an official police whistle. Think of the signaling you can do with this Sergeant Preston whistle. Perfect for dark night, handy in any emergency. Just what you need for training and calling your dog. Don't forget, this police whistle is not for sale in any store. To get it, buy a package of Quaker Puffed Rice or Quaker Puffed Wheat. The famous breakfast cereals shot from gun. Actually exploded up to 8 times normal size to make them bigger and better tasting. Delicious and tender as nuts in November. Then send the box top with only 35 cents. That's 35 cents and your name and address to Yukon, Box L, Chicago 77, Illinois. You'll get a money-back guarantee with your swell 14-karat gold-plated Sergeant Preston mounted police whistle. Yes, hold it in your hand. Blow it, just once. And if it isn't better, far better, than any other whistle you've ever seen, you may return it and get every cent of your money back, plus postage. So hurry, hurry, hurry. This is the last week of this radio offer. Send 35 cents and a box top from Quaker Puffed Wheat or Quaker Puffed Rice to Yukon, Y-U-K-O-N, Yukon, Box L, Chicago 77, Illinois. Now to continue. Learning that Betty and her little girl were alone in the cabin, Buck pulled a gun and ordered Betty to pack up what supplies she had available. For a moment, Betty was startled. And then she spoke spiritedly.
I won't give you any of our supplies.
Sam, while I keep her covered, see what supplies you can find.
All right.
Just a minute. You keep away from that cupboard.
Shut up and sit down.
How dare you push me like that?
Keep quiet and maybe you won't get hurt.
Mama, I'm scared.
Come here, Gloria. Sit on Mama's lap.
I found the
Don't
gun.
let them hurt us.
Be quiet, dear. Everything will be all right.
You think I won't use this gun, you're mistaken. So you better get wise and both of you keep quiet. Come on, hurry up, Sam.
I'm putting the stuff in this sack here. There. I got about all of it. Look, Buck,
What are we going to do about the woman? You want me to tie her up? Don't bother. She's alone and 2 miles from town. She has no way of getting there except on foot, and she couldn't do that in this storm. By morning, we'll be plenty far from here and without leaving any trail behind us. Come on, let's go.
About an hour after the robbery, Sergeant Preston entered the cafe and looked around for Van Topton. Oh, hello, Dick. Topton around?
No, he was here about an hour or so ago. Said he was going back to the office for a few minutes to pick up some papers, and he was coming back. Funny it's taking him so long.
Maybe he decided to do some work at the office. I'll go over there and see if he's working.
Well, his dog team's still out back, so I know he didn't go home.
Oh, I see. Well, thanks for the information, Jake. I'll go to the express office. Come along, King. A few minutes later, Sergeant Preston and King approached the front of the express office. Strange, there isn't any light in the office, King. Tried the door. It's locked. Whatever Van is, he didn't go home. His dog team's still behind the cafe. What's the matter, King? Van! Van, are you in there? One thing to do, fella. No lights the lamp. What's happened, Van?
I can't stand. Too busy. Someone jumped me in the dark.
Oh, a nasty glow on the back of your head.
See if this.
I'll find out. Safe's open and empty. I'll bandage your head, Van, and then I'll get the constable. We'll take you home on your own sled, and we'll try to get a line on these crooks. Sometime later, with Preston using his own dog team and the constable driving vans, they arrived at Van's carriage.
I'm more than glad to see the sergeant and the constable with you.
Something wrong, Betty?
Yes, Sergeant. I'll tell you.
On the weather watch. Take it from our meteorologist, Carl Lamb. You're going to take a walk or go for a run. Today would definitely be the day to do it. The forecast tomorrow is calling for a mix of snow and rain. It will be that heavier, wet snow that's not fun to shovel at all. Lamb tells me when you factor in the strong wind gusts of 50 to 60 kilometers an hour over the next couple days, the drive into work and school tomorrow could be a tricky one. And it will be even windier on Tuesday for areas on the Niagara Peninsula. But there's always a little light at the end of the tunnel. With those stronger winds, it does usher in some of that warmer air from the state. So that's why temperatures will finally be above the freezing mark. I'm Adam Steinberg.
You're listening to All News Radio's 680 News. Well, despite the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine being used in more than 50 countries, Health Canada is still reviewing the shot. As 680's Jazz Karen Cooner tells us, the spread of the virus variants might actually be the issue.
Despite it being used in 50 countries, because that's how we do things here. If a bunch of other people do it, it's Canadian enough.
The vaccine is not as effective in protecting against COVID variants the way Moderna and Pfizer can. She goes on to say, although it might not be as effective against variants, there are some positives in approving the vaccine.
There's logistical problems with Pfizer and Moderna. Wonderfully effective, logistically difficult. So the AstraZeneca vaccine is a fridge vaccine. It's like flu shots. You can just transport it normally. It's not nearly as fragile. It can go in fridges, which is a lot easier to distribute to pharmacies and family doctors.
Greenrod says if AstraZeneca is approved, booster shots from Pfizer and Moderna may need to be used down the line for full protection against variants. I'm Jazz Karen Cooner. A report which looks into the air quality of 3 schools in the Toronto Catholic District School Board is causing some concerns when it comes to COVID-19 safety. Malia Sheikh of City News reports.
Air quality, but all you care about the virus.
St. Jean Francis and St. Raphael. Classrooms at Mother Cabrini and St. Jean Francis generally had adequate ventilation, still worrisome to TCDSB trustee Norm DePasquale.
Generally had adequate ventilation. Those are generally not.
So some rooms were getting more ventilation and some rooms were getting less.
The classrooms which were tested at St. Raphael regularly exceeded both the recommended 800 ppm and 1200 ppm limits of carbon dioxide levels. A fifth of TCDSB schools have no mechanical ventilation.
If there's a room that has the window open, it isn't necessarily true that you'll be getting dilution of the air.
Schools will be receiving an additional $50 million to deal with ventilation concerns.
It's the same thing. Hey, stupid nigger, you're too stupid to know how it works. So when we tell you the window being open is ventilation, it is. Yes, just like dickhead fucking flooding my house with crack smoke.
About a lack of simple maintenance plus rodents and pest infestation in a building.
It's funny, I kick on his door, he stops doing it real fucking fast. It's the same as the apartment on this side. There's nobody living there for 2 straight years. When I start calling the police station, everything they're doing stops instantly.
Where's the help for us as tenants who cannot afford our own homes?
Tenants say the superintendent is
Because of buying a house means what?
coming out if the issues pertain to
Some dickhead who graduated George Brown decided you don't need ventilation.
They also say many
The
people
building code
are too
says
scared to
big.
put their concerns out to their landlord, fearing that they will be evicted if they stir up commotion. Listen to
It
Cobble Lake
doesn't
City
go
News.
to the fucking landlord. It is a fire code violation.
COVID-19 outbreak at one of its Toronto locations. CAMH says in a statement that 14 patients and 4 staff have tested positive for the virus at their Queen Street location. And although they haven't
specified which strain of the virus has spread. They say they're staying vigilant about policies to keep staff and patients safe as they work with Toronto Public Health on reporting infection control. The facility says staff continues to follow
She just revealed something there. Now these people did.
Screening, testing, and
all the variants come from COVID-19. So somehow they think COVID-19, the original, is less harmful than the variants. They're still not getting it. The original COVID-19 will adapt to you and create a variant. It's not that the variants are more dangerous. You've got it fucking backwards again. And I'm the nigger that needs to be put down and put in my place because I won't stop saying that you don't know what you're talking about. HVAC our technician. Go fuck yourself.
Good on you. Shop TSC.ca. Today's shopping choice.
Now, the 680 News gas price update. Enpro says the price of gas did not change at midnight, holding just under $1.22 a liter at most GTA stations. Still to come on
Just
680
under,
News.
because the average is always on 0.9 for some reason.
680 News time, 640.
During the Only Adventure sales event, find exceptions.
So they're not averaging it because the numbers wouldn't add up that way. It should end on like 0.7 or 0.6 or something. 0.8.
Receive finance rates as well.
So,
Yeah, we don't have
a year
to agree,
ago
but
I said the
take that
schools
whistle
are
from
not
us, Sam.
being ventilated by
Open the
opening
back window a bit and you blow 2
2
blasts.
years of your kids
Maybe the
going to
team will
school
come,
and
all
not
right?
being taught anything. 2 straight years. Oh, March,
Hey,
April,
boys.
May. March, April, May. You got a whole bunch more time for them to learn something.
Hey, seems like the team really answered that whistle. The team is coming, like he said. They'll stop when they see the other dog outside, I guess. Get them cord and tie Preston good and tight, Sam. Keep them covered. Our time, all right.
Meantime, when he heard the 2 blasts made by Preston's gold whistle, the constable laid flat on the sled and then urged the team on.
On your huskies.
When they approached the cabin, King ran toward the team, which stopped out front. The constable could see a figure at the window, so he lay quietly out of sight on the sled. The figure at the window turned away, so the constable quickly got up and moved to the side of the cabin. He peered inside, taking in the situation. Then he moved around to the door. Patting King on the head, he spoke in a low tone.
Quiet, fella. Go inside. You ready to get him, King?
Inside, Sam had tied Preston while Buck stood near holding a gun. And then Buck went to the window and watched as the dog team pulled to a stop out front. He could see only the dim outline of the sled, but he was satisfied that no one had driven the team to the cabin. He turned away, saying,
Sure a smart dog team. I was watching out the window to make sure nobody was driving the dog team here. And now we load up and get ready to finish off that mud out there.
Oh, that got him! What the? Well, get you! Oh, Sam, who had just finished tying Preston's hands behind his back, grabbed for his gun, using Preston as a shield.
I got that gun, Buck. You don't dare shoot at me.
Even as Sam spoke, the great dog King moved like a gray streak along the wall until he was behind Sam. And then he sprang as Sam aimed at the constable.
Get him off! Help!
King, down for what's a boy? I got the cords.
Thanks. All right, let's have that whistle. Here it is. When you blew that whistle, it brought the constable along with the team. Well, you told me to blow it, so stop beefing. What's more, you must have been blind not to see him coming. Could swear he wasn't with him. I still can't figure how he got hit without me seeing him.
Take that over in jail. The gold's on the table, Constable. We'll stop at Van's cabin on the way back. Let's get going.
Later, at the Topton cabin, the 2 crooks were identified by Betty as the men who had stolen supplies. With a twinkle in his eye, Preston looked at Van Topton and then spoke to Betty.
Betty, you were fortunate to have that puppy Contention here. If he hadn't taken the bandana from one of those cooks and run off with it, we might not have been able to pick up their trail.
Contention's bad habit of grabbing and chewing things has put him in bad around here, Sergeant. I've decided to give him up to please Betty. I'll get Glow another pipe.
Van Topton. How can you stand there and say such a thing about poor little Contention after he practically got back your stolen gold for you? Sometimes I think you men don't have any feelings at all.
But Betty, I don't...
Here, Contention. Give me a bullet. Come on. That's a good boy. You're staying right here with us as long as you live, Contention. And Gloria's daddy will just have to make up his mind to that.
That's all right with me, Betty. If you say so, Contention stays.
Even King agrees. Well, I'm glad contention earned himself such a fine home. Let's get these crooks to town, Constable. This case is closed.
In just a moment, we'll give you a preview of Friday's adventure. Whistling in the dark. Whatever you do, don't miss your big chance on this program to get a Sergeant Preston mounted police whistle. This is the very last week of this sensational radio offer, made by swell-tasting, nourishing Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. You've never seen anything like this whistle. Not even your own neighborhood policeman's whistle can hold a candle to it. That's because it's a genuine copy of Sergeant Preston's own whistle. When you hold this big, heavy 3 1/2-inch whistle in your hand, when you see its gleaming 14-karat gold-plated finish, you know it's the real McCoy. Remember, you get with it a 12-inch gold-colored braided nylon cord. And for both whistle and cord, you send only 35 cents with your name and address and 1 box top from a package of Quaker puffed rice or Quaker puffed wheat. The famous cereal shot from guns. Send to Yukon, Box L, Chicago 77, Illinois. And what a thrill you'll get every time you blow this official Sergeant Preston mounted police whistle. Hurry, send your 35 cents, just 35 cents, and 1 box top from Quaker puffed wheat.
Picture life without restaurant. Don't want
Coming up at 6:51. After sports, a petition is circulating online asking Google to make a new addition to its Translate app.
Now back to Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
On the Global News website, there's a story about a woman. Her name is Christine. She lost her job in the live theater industry. Obviously, the pandemic has really just shattered the entertainment industry. She has unsuccessfully looked for work since. She's relied on the CERB benefit. That ended. And its successor, which is the Canada Recovery Benefit. And, CERB got her through the summer. She's worried now about losing the CRB because she's going to max it out next month. She's got no immediate job prospects, and she's worried, like a lot of people, which has activists, labor groups now asking the feds to provide her and others with extra weeks of pandemic aid. We keep hearing about a third wave. Doug Ford is remaining resolute on this, paid sick day stuff. But that aside, Christine told Global News that I'm sure the finance minister would agree it's best for all of us to be able to plan our budgets. But my CRB ends next month, and I haven't heard anything about what's going to happen. Joining us on the line is Executive Director of the Workers' Action Center. Always good to talk to Dina Ladd. How you been doing, Dina?
I'm good. It's great to be here again. Thanks for everything you do.
Not a problem. I don't envy a lot of people. It's tax time. We got our T4s here at Chorus yesterday. Dina, I think for a lot of people, because of the benefits, they're going to, for the first time probably ever, going to be owing the government this year. And it's not a good time to have to owe the government.
Well, I think also what's happening, which is, Christine, who you talked about, is like hundreds and thousands of workers across the country who are, going to get their last 2 or 3 payments and are wondering what is going to happen because the money will be running out in like 5 or 6 weeks. And, as you said, we have active strains of COVID-19. Things are definitely not opening up. We have, medical officers saying that, they're looking at extending the emergency orders. So I'm not sure what the federal government is waiting for in terms of letting folks know how they're going to put a roof over their heads in April. And so that's why, we are saying, let's not wait till the last minute. You've got hundreds and thousands of workers and their families depending on this money to make it through, month by month. And they need to know whether or not, there's going to be a
I was wondering, because he called it the Translator. I think that was funny.
The language of New Zealand's indigenous people, which has about 50,000 speakers, is already available on Google Translate. Steve Henniger, the Canadian Press.
680 News Time, 6:49. China's ambassador to Canada is continuing to take the federal government to task for what he describes as meddling in his country's internal affairs. The latest tongue lashing comes ahead of a vote by MPs on declaring a genocide.
So, and the smell of guns smoke.
And even if it does happen,
government's view that there is no mistreatment of the Uyghurs and labeling as anti-China fiction the accusations of the United Nations and others that more than 1 million people are in detention camps and being subjected to forced labor and sterilization.
We firmly oppose that because it runs counter to the fact. And
you notice the white people will stand there, wait until you're sterilized, and then say, "Oh, that's wrong. You should not have done that." Past tense. We've been talking about this for 10 fucking years. They took it to the point of forced abortions and sterilizations, and now I'm like, "Oh, now you can
In 60 seconds,
stop," because they know it won't stop until they're done sterilizing it.
Forecast with Carl Lamb together on the
Remember, Justin Trudeau, blackface and brownface.
Beer drinkers of Ontario, are you tired of waiting in lines, trying to spend as little time out and about as possible?
but again, it's all tentative because, again, as you know, we're hearing, you know, businesses may open up again, but then if it gets closed down again because of the next emergency order, then everyone's out again. So it's this very incredibly stressful time. And so during these moments, it's so important to have clear policy coming out from the government that can kind of reassure people and get them through this horrendous situation that we're going through. And so, you know, I think it would ease everyone's mind if they knew that they had at least that basic rent covered until the end of the year while the economy starts turning back and while we hopefully get those vaccinations out as quickly as possible so that, you know, workers can actually go back to work and start to, you know, pay their bills in a real way.
Yeah, but as you said, Dina, if I've been working at a restaurant for a good 15 years and, you know, invested half my life into it and that restaurant's gone,
yeah,
it's not going to help me. But would you give the federal government a letter grade on how well they've done so far? Because, I mean, the CERB was rolled out very quickly, almost haphazardly, and then they scared the hell out of people with those letters in November.
Yeah, and I mean, and luckily, you know, now they've backed off. And I think in that sense, I think one of the things that I've been kind of happy about is that the government actually doesn't sort of just dig in its heels and just say no, like we're seeing with the Ford government around paid sick days. What we are seeing is that then an acknowledgement that, yeah, they screwed up, right? That they shouldn't have issued those.
The federal government already covers your sick days, stupid.
And so they've backed off from that. They've admitted that they did something wrong. So, you know, my letter grade goes up for them because of that. I'd say because, and also the fact that, you know, one of the things that I think the federal government has done, which has been fantastic, has been recognizing that you can't, you know, just give people a terrible benefit. Like if they establishing a floor of at least 500 a week, I think has just, you know, made everyone breathe a sigh of relief that, you know, it's not absolutely the panacea for sure. It's not going to help you, you know, cover all your bills, but what it does do is at least covers some of the basics. It's, of course, families with kids or with, you know, medical issues and they don't have benefits. They are still incredibly struggling, but at least it allows people to pay the rent.
It's not that you're expected to give up custody of your child to the government.
A huge thing for people. And so, you know, I was talking to workers yesterday and they were saying, you know, it's been such a relief to know that I have been able to keep some of my basic expenses covered, which is why the federal government needs to just, you know, kind of come forward now and extend those CRB and employment insurance, because even folks on employment insurance, they don't realize that if they went into the program with very few hours, their benefits also run out in March. And also parents who have had to stay home with their children who are immunocompromised, so the Canada Recovery Caregiving
the feds have a list of niggers and Indians.
Runs out in March.
So we
have close to
over 1 million people who
So
will
they have a
be
list,
having their
separate from the
benefits come
official
to an
rules,
end
obviously.
in weeks. And so
They
that's
never came up
why
with a reason why
we're
I'm not
getting
entitled
panicked
to the
phone
money.
calls at the Workers'
They never
Action
sent
Center
me a
going,
notice. They
you know,
can't
what's going
accuse
to
me of
happen
committing a
next
crime,
month?
and they can't
And so
say I owe
that's
them
why
money.
we're, you know,
But they did
kind of
everything
urging
possible
the
they
government
could to
again
stop
to
me
sort
from
of
getting
allow
it.
people to plan their lives and not get, again, stressed out in an already incredibly stressful situation, and sort of, you know, give people comfort to know that the benefits will increase to the end of the year, you know, throughout this third wave, throughout, you know, getting people vaccination, so that they can pay their bills and know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, at least for a little bit, you know?
Yeah, they've got to stop with this, you know, whether it's the province about when the schools are going to reopen to,
Hey,
will they continue with the benefits? 355,000 Ontarians lost their job in 2020, and the fiscal watchdog says that's the worst on record. I mean, it's quite clear. It's a has the minister, I believe it's Minister Qualtrough, has she said anything about what might be happening?
No, I mean, they're saying that they're going to make some sort of an announcement, but it's like, I don't understand what they need to wait for, because, you know, even Ellen DeVilla, the
New to W Network,
Good to see you, Bucky Brewster.
the beloved TV icon is back. I had to grow up, ish, and she started some company. Raising 3 kids alone isn't easy.
Mom, you put on 2 different shoes.
Haven't done that in a while. Still works. Leyland Fire returns as Hunky Bruce.
680news.com. I'm James Mackin. Wow. Congrats, man. Coffee? Sure, thanks. It's a great play.
Don't remember.
But I do. 6, that's what. Saddle blankets. All except one. I remember he didn't even own a blanket.
Well, then he was sure out of luck all the way around, wasn't he? Come on, Doc, let's go get some dinner.
All right. We'll bring you a...
I'm Wolfgang Klein, portfolio manager with Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management and host of Hi-Fi Radio right here on Global News Radio 640, Toronto. I'm pleased to announce that our showtime has been moved forward to 7 p.m. Saturday night. Spend an hour with some
more confident. And that's the best thing that sports give us. It gives us a lot of teachings. It teaches us sportsmanship and other features, how to act as a leader and how to lead. And the other thing is, like, as there are different flowers that carry different fragrances, similarly, each and every person in this world has something unique in themselves. And we just need to figure out those unique things and just see what all we can just do with them. And in a sports arena, we just need that internal push and external push as well. We need a good coach. We need a good family to support us. Like, as a woman, we always heard that if nothing else, a woman after a marriage will become a housewife. She would be dependent upon a man. She would be dependent upon his husband and his in-laws.
You hear your British accent,
I don't
you
think so
fucking
that is
retard.
anywhere with.
that were announced last week, there will be methods of people to alleviate their amounts due if they did receive payments for CERB or CRB.
And that newest announcement you spoke of was an option to defer the interest.
Yes, that is correct. So basically, anybody who gained less than $75,000 in 2020 and they receive any kind of COVID-19 relief benefits, including EI benefits, they will not be charged any interest up until April 30th, 2022. So basically, everybody else's due date is April 30th of this year, 2021. Those who receive COVID relief payments will be able to push back their amounts due for an extra year.
Jose Cabral is with H&R Block. And at the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
East Court Ford, the #1 retailer of Ford. Most released at East Court Ford at Shepherd and McCowan in Scarborough, or go to eastcourtfordlincoln.com. See dealer for details.
COVID continues to be a threat. Bergmanis Prayer supports frontline initiatives and reminds you to be safe.
If you've been injured due to slip and falls, careless drivers, or if your insurance company has failed to honor its obligations to you, Bergmanis Prayer offers skilled and compassionate legal services and free, no-obligation consultations by phone or video 24/7. You are not alone. Bergmanis Prayer personal injury lawyers. You focus on getting better.
Finish up to
we'll
it.
do the
Call
rest.
Alliance Home
Visit
Comfort for repair or replacement. We're here 24/7. We'll get there fast. Reliance has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and you can count on our commitment to safety precautions. And remember to ask about our next day or we pay installation guarantee. Call today.
Cloudy skies, minus 12 degrees. Over in Milton, clear, minus 14. Right now in downtown Toronto, it's also clear and minus 8. 680 News Time, it's 7 o'clock.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
Good morning. This is Sunday, February 21st. I'm Christine
So, the pan that helps
news this hour.
it does sound fantastic. Today, yes.
Residents will see a number of restrictions in place. New stricter travel restrictions go into effect tomorrow as the federal government cracks down on those flying into the country's airports.
A cold, wet, windy start to the work week. We do have the chance for some snow. Everything you need to know to wrap up the month coming up.
The Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine has still not been approved for use in Canada. A University of Waterloo professor says she suspects variants might be the source of debate.
Scores twice as the Maple Leafs take down the Habs, while Novak Djokovic wins another Aussie Open. Sports
7-Eleven wants to serve alcohol inside its Ontario convenience stores. We talked to an industry association who tells us why they're on board with the idea.
Officer Obvious and Detective Diddler. You show me a number of pictures of me with my eyes closed and shit again. And you're,
it's a really good drive out on the major roads.
every time you think I'm touching a button, the machine goes fucking crazy, but I'm not touching a button yet. As soon as I lean over like this, you fucking hit the fucking signature button.
There's no collisions, no
Yeah, you're just like when you see a kid's asshole, you must touch it, right? The God said so, right? You're righteous pedophile fight, you're gonna fight, right? Are you fucking done, Detective Diddler?
Quick private PCR COVID-19 testing in the GTA called the Ontario Travel and
Unintended
Immunization
consequences
Clinics.
of all that hand sanitizer.
You see how there's a half a second gap between me pressing the
that
button
people have
and
embraced during COVID-19. University of British Columbia microbiologist Brett Finley says a lack of microbial diversity is linked to conditions including obesity, asthma, and cardiovascular and brain diseases. Finley and his colleagues are recommending that while still being safe, people should get outdoors, eat a healthy diet, and have physical contact with members of their household and pets. As work begins for a new naval patrol vessel in Halifax, the Irving Shipyard is also making gains at diversifying its workforce. Along with the Nova Scotia Community College and other partners, the shipbuilder has created a 2-year program aimed at attracting groups that have been historically underrepresented in the industry, including African Nova Scotians. At the Halifax Shipyard's recent program graduate, Terrell Young says being a part of an all-African Nova Scotians cohort of shipbuilders represents an important step towards diversifying the industry.
The inclusivity is definitely the best part about coming here. In a predominantly white business, it's definitely hard for a black student or a black apprentice or a woman to come into the field, but everybody's pretty welcoming.
Worldwide shipping is dominated. Keep it up, Detective Diddler. Keep it up, Detective Diddler. Worldwide shipping is dominated.
And Donald Trump will make his first post-presidential appearance at the Conservative Political Action Conference on February 28th.
No response, Officer Obvious.
A slew of former Trump administration officials are also expected to appear. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the Colorado Avalanche.
The British tried to blame the Dutch for inventing slavery. Slavery never existed ever till then, except when the white people took over Egypt. But
the game initially began at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, before an 8-hour delay caused the game to resume past midnight. The NHL arranged for the delay due to the sun causing poor ice conditions. The league has also moved today's Bruins-Flyers outdoor game to 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
A pair of early Hart Trophy candidates put on a show last night. Connor McDavid scoring a hat trick and adding 2 assists in a 7-1 Edmonton Oilers win over the Calgary Flames. Meanwhile, Austin Matthews scored 2 goals and added a pair of assists in a 5-3 Toronto Maple Leafs win over the Montreal Canadiens. Elsewhere, Sidney Crosby finally reached the 1,000 NHL game plateau, the superstar picking up.
Earlier, Ottawa announced incoming travelers would have to pay the cost of a 72-hour
The term is Black Nova Scotians and Black Canadians. We don't use the term African, anything in Canada like that, because it ignores everything that came after around 1800. It ignores 220 years of history. And the African Nova Scotians, the slaves, the niggers we took here from Africa. No, it's not. We got here. Oh, and before the Afro-Dutch would have been the Norse, who also brought black people here, and not as slaves, paying passengers. They paid with paper.
One group that will have their mandatory hotel quarantines covered by the federal government are newly arriving refugees.
Literally printing money.
Will also cover the cost of required COVID-19 testing upon arrival.
I got that in school. I love hearing white people say that. Well, I don't remember being taught that in school. Well, fuck, you're a retard. The same people that will bitch all day about the government. Oh, the schools said this and that.
Well, the good news is that temperatures will finally warm up above the freezing mark starting tomorrow and lasting through Wednesday. But each of those days, we do have the chance for some snow and also some rain mixing in as well.
Mixed precipitation comes with it some fairly strong wind gusts.
The temperature's going to go below 0 3 more times, but it's going to stay above 0.
And then wind gusts up to about
What the fuck does that mean? How fucking bad did people do in school?
Work week of the month
I already know, they got rubber stamp. As long as you're white, you can have this job.
1 and 6 degrees.
No black people working at the station, is there? They had one for a couple months during the traffic. It hasn't been on
is being widely used in both the U.S. and UK. How come it's not being approved yet here in Canada? 680's Jazz Karen Cooter is actually hearing from a professor who might have an answer.
Kelly Grinrod, a professor in
They don't need a
pharmacy at the
reason to not
University
approve
of Waterloo,
it. They haven't done any of the proper studies they do on drugs.
Protecting against COVID variants compared to Pfizer and Moderna's vaccines.
So, the efficacy generally of the AstraZeneca vaccine is pretty good, except now for these variants.
None of them work on the variants. None of them work on the variants.
But we can actually get it out to people. Is some protection better than no protection?
No, it's not.
However, AstraZeneca does have the benefit of not having to be stored in ultra-cold temperatures. It can be easily moved.
If you
This
kill
means it can be made widely
the weakest
available,
of the
and most people
pathogens,
will
you know
be
what
able
you're
to
left
get the
with?
shot at their
Superbugs.
doctor's office or pharmacy.
Well, that's what happens when you partially clean the tap water. You partially clean the sewage.
Hinges on getting vaccines into
So
the
we've got an
country.
issue in
And
Canada for
only
like
has
10 years
2
now of
approved
the tap water, for example, here in Toronto, anywhere off of Lake Ontario,
News Time 707
has bacteria in it. The tap water, not the source, the tap has so much bacteria in it. If you are immunocompromised, it will kill you.
Responded to a call just after 11 for reports of a man shot in the leg. The victim's injuries are serious but non-life-threatening. No word yet on suspects, and police are asking anyone with information to contact them.
Well, all those people are sleeping. 11 o'clock on a Saturday. You're going to tell us 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. You look at the
yesterday after an engine exploded. Moments after their Boeing 777's engine exploded, the pilots on United Flight 328 making a mayday call to air traffic control. The audio from liveatc.net. Giant pieces of the engine went raining down on the neighborhoods below. The enormous front cone of the engine.
Victimize themselves. The suspect is dead. No one is in danger. No one is missing. And they talk about it all fucking day. 2 black guys get shot after. And they stopped talking about that before. With the suspects outstanding.
Justin Trudeau will hold his first meeting with newly elected U.S. President Joe Biden. Listen to Cobley of City News.
That's funny because you said they already had their phone call. They call them
pertussis, tetanus, polio, Quebec makes flu vaccines. Those companies together, which are Sanofi and GlaxoSmithKline, are going to collaborate on a
on a COVID-19 vaccine, but they won't be making that COVID-19 vaccine in Canada. Similarly, when back in late spring, early summer, when Canada, the federal government approached other manufacturers about making vaccines in Canada, they all declined.
So this problem has been on the federal government's radar for a while and has left Canadians to rely on the international manufacture of these vaccines.
Shut it all down in the first
government
place.
has come under fire for ordering enough COVID-19 vaccines for the country's population many times over. But the vaccine shipments haven't been regular. I know in one of your pieces you pointed to the SARS epidemic as an early indicator of problems of vaccine manufacturing. How should lessons like SARS have informed preparation for this
right back to the fact SARS and SARS-2 are coronaviruses, and you can't vaccinate against them.
Wasn't that bad, although I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 80 people in Canada died from SARS, but it wasn't widespread the way COVID is. After SARS, we set up a number of
the only name he could remember was SARS-2.
Looking at
doesn't want to call it
better. One of them, chaired by Dr. David Naylor, recommended that Canada have a secure vaccine supply and that it develop a national vaccine strategy.
It comes delivered on an armored truck. That's
out
secured.
of that inquiry came the Public Health Agency of Canada.
Back in March or whatever.
But we didn't really do anything about vaccines. 2009,
if you got some big piece of equipment on your truck and a little tiny rope holding it is secured with only one tied out.
In Quebec was delayed because of production problems in the Quebec plant. We didn't really learn a lesson from that. 2014, there was Ebola, which fortunately didn't make it to Canada, but at the same time, we should have learned that we needed a vaccine manufacturing capability, but we didn't seem to learn the lesson there either. So
you can't figure out what animal has the Ebola.
January, February 2020, and Canada's doesn't have a good vaccine manufacturing capability to make any of the COVID-19 vaccines. So the government at that point
as for the hepatitis vaccine,
signed contracts with
you get a hepatitis vaccine
companies,
and you find out that it didn't work,
as you point out, for 400 million
so you can't complain
doses, which means
you won't hear about that one.
The vaccines need to be have 2 doses
tell us about the
per
HIV
person. We can vaccinate 200 million people. So what's that? 5-6 times the population of Canada. Some of those, only 2 of the vaccines have been approved in Canada right now, Moderna and Pfizer. Those deliveries of those are currently being delayed. The other 5 vaccines are in various stages.
Based on the messaging you've heard from the Public Health Agency of Canada and from the Prime Minister, what are your thoughts on how this vaccination manufacturing problem that Canada has, in light of the increased likelihood of another pandemic, and will it cause the federal government to act and shore up vaccine manufacturing?
So there are a number of manufacturing plants that are going to be coming online over the next couple of years.
Did you hear that?
The National Research
it's going to feel like you shoveled 30 centimeters because of the high water content of this snow. This snow has more water in it than regular frozen water. This retard just said that. This snow has a high water content.
Despite the pandemic, another record for home sales and home prices in Canada last month. 680's business editor
You
Chris
told us that last month, you fucking idiot. You cannot get one nonsensical. Wow. You're
that they
good,
were going to
officer,
just
obvious
obey
and
the
detective Diddler.
patriarchy, but in
You
fact,
can't
she
get one
galvanizes them, doesn't she?
nonsensical
Yes,
answer
I
out of
think
these
that's the
people.
most beautiful part of her story. So she was like, each time the women would start crying, I would just play the music. I would just make them dance so that we don't keep crying and crying, because she was like, we
Crying
were
is
gonna go
bad.
crazy.
Crying is bad. Now you
And
got
now
two
she's
women
going
on the
for
radio
company.
telling
She
you
has a
crying is bad.
Strategy
Distract them, and that will make
um,
it stop. Distract them, that will
would
make it stop.
entail a number of
You ever
elements
seen how the sight
in
of
it.
mind
So
work on
first of
anybody?
all, it's a clear
Any animal that tried
commitment
on kids, and it
to
never works, does it?
to put in money into research into vaccines for pandemics that are likely
Where do
to
you
occur in
source
the
the mercury
future.
from?
Look at what viruses are out there, which ones have the most potential to cause problems, and be doing research into those, be doing research into new methods of making vaccines. Secondly, we need a commitment for manufacturing capability, and based on what happened with the sale
Hey, if you're going to talk like this, you have to say based off.
and the Quebec facility, I think that we should be looking at a crown corporation to make vaccines, so that the accountability is so that the ability to produce vaccines, there's accountability directly to the public. When vaccine plants are controlled by private interests, there isn't really accountability to the Canadian public.
It's quackery. It's a drug somebody wants to sell you. There's no part of life
we give out money
on the government giving you an injection.
To private interests, either
Genocide
to
is
do
dependent
research
on
on
that. Living is
vaccines
not.
or to make vaccines. Those contracts or grants need, the details of them should be made publicly available so that everybody knows what's happening, and so that if some people want to criticize what's going on from any side of the political spectrum, they've got the information to be able to do that.
We'll be right back.
Scoring free gas sure feels like a win. Hi, I'm John from Speedy Glass. And when you book a windshield replacement with us online, you'll get a $25 e-card to score free gas. At Speedy Glass, you'll also feel like a winner knowing we install.
More details coming up in our weather reports on the ones. 680 News Time, 7:16. Now 680 Sports from Sportsnet 5. Ready to fan. Here's Rob Long.
Austin Matthews can't stop scoring after punting two more in a Maple Leafs 5-3 win over Montreal.
Oh my God. So it was a link going back to vitamin D, the deficiency in the body.
What about muscle and bone strength? Can your D3 formula help with that?
Yeah.
Not just smart, that's everyday smart from CIBC.
These guys are going to bill your credit card to send your vitamins in the mail.
CIBC.com/smart.
We are Toronto's news talk leader.
Until we get serious about paid sick days, there will be no way out of this pandemic. Everybody seems to be behind this except one Mr. Doug Ford, president of Unifor, Jerry Dias.
Doug Ford is protecting his business community friends, and frankly, he's screwing them because people are going to work. And instead of paying sick pay, you are now risking the entire workforce.
The morning show, weekdays at 5:30 a.m. or anytime from Apple and Spotify podcasts. We are 640 Toronto.
As students return to classrooms, we have taken steps to help ensure schools have been made as safe as possible. Ontario's school safety plan has been developed in consultation with the Chief Medical Officer of Health. Further protections to prevent the spread of COVID-19 include strengthened masking requirements, enhanced cleaning, expanded targeted testing, and stricter student screening.
So now,
to learn more
in
about
these
school
facilities
health
with
and
no
safety
outside
measures,
air being brought
please
in,
visit
you're filling them with chemical vapors all day long.
Reopening schools. Paid for
As everybody
by the
knows, a good
government of Ontario.
sanitizer stinks of synthetic orange or whatever.
Some see doubt, we see hope. Some see limits, we see possibilities.
A year ago, they were talking about ventilating the schools. Now they're talking about all the kids must wear a mask. Because a kindergarten kid must learn that masks are part of being alive, right?
With ZipRecruiter, we get
You can't explain to a child how this sheet of plastic wrap is good for them, but plastic wrap over their face is bad for them. You can't explain that.
The smartest way to hire. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free.
Don't wear a wet mask. Why?
/Canada.
Have you heard the explanation yet?
ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada. ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada.
680 News Time 719. The province's fiscal
I know where it is,
watchdog says more than 355,000 jobs were lost in Ontario last year due to the pandemic. The Financial Accountability Officer says that represents the single largest annual decline on record. The FAO also says more than 765,000 Ontario residents worked fewer hours because of the pandemic. And the province is expanding the number of small businesses that can apply for a special grant to buy personal protective
the numbers
equipment.
up. You could have
The
a million
Main Street
people
Relief
working
Grant
less
is now
hours with no
eligible for
lost
companies
jobs.
with
If you really
2 to 19 employees in several sectors, including retail, gyms, and yoga studios, as well as repair and maintenance. It was previously only available for businesses
they're
with
a
2
yoga
to
master,
9
and there's no
employees.
requirement
The
to be
one-time grant
educated in anything to
reimburses
do it.
businesses for
I've seen what these people tell you people to do with your bodies, and you're gonna have permanent fucking
since
horrible
March
damage.
17th
Get old.
of last year. 680 News Time at 7:20.
Scoring free gas sure feels like a win. Hi.
SeasonsRetirement.com.
Seasons retirement.
It has a much greater chance of mutating. And what we've seen already is that we can't keep those mutations out of Canada. So they're going to eventually work their way back. And
Again, the idea that there's some source other than the coronavirus for the mutations of the coronavirus. They're coming from some regular COVID's okay. Buddy, the COVID virus gets here in one person. You now have one mutation.
If we don't worry about the rest of the world's population. So Canada on its own has a very limited ability to help other people, other countries get vaccinated. But what Canada can do is use its reputation in the international community to aggressively push for for making sure that everybody is vaccinated. And one of the things that would involve is
we're the only country in COVAX takes developed country taking vaccines out of the system.
Middle income countries are pressing the World Trade Organization to temporarily suspend certain provisions, and by suspending those provisions, it would mean the intellectual property around vaccines would no longer be enforced, and other countries that can make vaccines would be able to ramp up production, increase the supply of vaccines.
That would be domestic
because
intellectual property law.
Production would be taking place in lower cost countries, and help ensure that the vaccine is much more widely available. So far, though, Canada's position at the World Trade Organization has been to block the movement to temporarily suspend intellectual property around vaccines.
That's interesting. And I wonder if you can speak to COVAX a bit, what it is, what Canada's role is in it, and what the state of that vaccine pool is right now. Because I forgot where I read it last night, but there's a large number. The idea behind COVAX and its reality there's quite a big distance between those two.
So COVAX is the one example of international cooperation around vaccine delivery. The idea here is that the rich countries like Canada put money into COVAX, and Canada, to its credit, is the second largest national donor to COVAX. I think we put in $230 million. We're second only to the United Kingdom. And then you put in money, and
that
That's
money
enough for 10 million.
does two things. One of them is it pays for vaccine delivery to low and middle income countries where they wouldn't be able to afford it. But the second thing it does is it gives Canada the right to purchase vaccine through COVAX. And Canada, to its shame, in my view, has decided to take up that option and is going to buy 1.9 million doses of vaccine by the end of March through COVAX. As I said, I think that that's really immoral on the part of Canada. That, yes, it may help us vaccinate more people here, but what it does is it just helps deplete the store of vaccine.
It depletes it. Buying more and giving the producers the money will deplete
countries that are in much greater need than we are here. On a moral or philosophical grounds, we should be concerned that we're being seen in the international community as selfish by hoarding vaccine. But on a much more personal and health level, we should be concerned because, as a lot of people are fond of saying, but not observing, nobody's safe until we're all safe. So if the vaccine, if the virus is not controlled around the world, then eventually it comes back here. We saw that, we didn't, but our forebears saw that in 1918 when the Spanish flu hit, and there were waves of it because it kept coming back until it finally burned itself out. And if we want waves of COVID to keep coming back into Canada from somewhere else, and that somewhere else could be almost anywhere in the world, then fine, let's keep going and doing what we're doing. But let's not be surprised that in 2022, we start to see a new variant of COVID.
The global economy stands to lose as much as 9.2 trillion, which is close to half the size of the U.S. economy. Just to put it in context, if governments fail to ensure developing economies' access to COVID-19 vaccines, as much as half of which would fall on advanced economies. So they would lose around 5 trillion.
How do you know?
This Is Why is produced by me, Adam Toy, and Dave McIver. It's a national radio show and a podcast.
You can reach us by email at thisiswhy@globalnews.ca and on Twitter @thisiswhy. If you like.
Convenience store chain isn't thinking about selling you alcohol for you to walk out the door.
Don't worry about the 146 variants they knew about in June of 2020. This guy says 2 years from that we might have a variant. So he knows what he's talking about.
In a convenience store may be hard for some to envision.
What do variants and vaccines have to do with Spanish flu? What's Spanish flu's proper name? I don't know.
It's on board with the idea.
They've had a year to stop calling it Spanish flu. They won't. They've had a century to stop calling it that. They won't. The Chinese flu. Many of the lawyers say that the Chinese flu, Choi, C-H-O-I, N-E-A-S, Chinese.
A lot of small grocery stores that
Even they even put the silent E on the flu.